Welcome back. You're still watching Newslink on DSTV channel 403. Now, the KwaZulu-Natal tourism sector was knocked off its feet by the floods earlier this year. The heavy downpours came as the sector was trying to recover from the strict COVID-19 lockdown restrictions. Now, holiday makers cancelled or postponed trips or put off the damage to the infrastructure. The KZN MEC for Tourism and Economic Development is expected to announce an assistance plan for affected businesses. eNCA's Lethiwe Mdluli is in Drakensberg with more and joins us now. Good morning, Lethiwe. Perhaps before we get to the assistance that will be offered by the MEC, talk to us about how it affected those businesses in Drakensberg.
Well, Mfundo, as you know, that a lot of businesses took a knock over the last 2 years because of COVID-19, because of the looting that happened last year here in the province, and now recently because of the floods. A lot of businesses have been saying that they need assistance from government. I mean, driving in here, we did see some of the roads that were washed away by the floods recently. And of course, where we are in the Drakensberg, I want to step out of shot and show you how beautiful this place is. Where we are, it's a very popular tourism destination. A lot of people opt to come here during the winter season because of the mountains, the trails that you can take while you're here, the bike riding, the horse riding. So currently what KZN Tourism is trying to do is assure people that the province is open for business. They are launching their winter campaign today, but the recent floods, which affected many tourist destinations, have also derailed the rebuilding process that the government has been talking about. Affected businesses over the last 2 years have been begging government for assistance to get back on their feet. But right now I'm actually joined by the MEC for Tourism, Mr. Ravi Pillay. I want to bring him in and talk to him about this rebuilding process, because currently a lot of businesses are suffering. They don't have water, they don't have electricity. Mr. Pillay, thank you so much for joining us at eNCA this morning. It's a beautiful day here in the Drakensberg. Of course, you're trying to attract a lot of tourists into the province following all this destruction that the province has been going through. Take us through the efforts government is trying to put in place to make sure that tourists come to this province, and also businesses are assisted during this time.
Well, thank you. Good morning, and thank you for having us. But let's just take a moment to breathe in the air and the stillness of the mountains and its sense of eternity, which cannot be affected by any real, even a disaster leaves the mountains standing in all its splendor. And I think we are here today and really absorbing all this beauty and tranquility because it's what we want to put out there to our tourism market. In fact, all citizens of South Africa, that there are places where you can come to and really de-stress and find yourself again sometimes, and that's a very powerful incentive for the tourism industry as a whole. Of course, the tourism sector has been very, very resilient. As you put it, we've had the triple, what I call the triple hit of the COVID-19, the unrest and the floods. But we're still standing, and the tourism sector, as I said, has been very, very resilient. We were very excited in January, February and March because we had very good months, the bookings were high, and we were looking forward to a bumper Easter, but then the floods happened. And so it's really picking ourselves up again and rebuilding for the July vacation, which is historically a very good season for us throughout the province. Of course, the Drakensberg, we are here in the central Drakensberg, but the Drakensberg range is a long one. You have the northern Drakensberg, the central, and the southern Drakensberg, which has its own particular appeal. Indications thus far are very good, that we're looking at maybe a 55% overall occupancy rate throughout the province, which when you take it across all facilities, that's very, very good. Of course, the top facilities like this one generally have 100% occupancy, so book early to those who want to come. Of course, in COVID, as you would recall, there was various relief schemes. The National Department had a 200 million rand relief scheme, which applied to the country as a whole. But as KZN, we had our fair share of that. In addition, as a provincial department, we put out another 20 million rand for those who might have missed out, and then trying to reach out to those who perhaps didn't even know or didn't have the capacity to apply. Yeah. Right now, the recovery must really be in assisting on the infrastructure side. You spoke about a few washaways that are still there, but by and large, all the roads are open. Here and there, you might be reduced to a single lane, but from the N3 side, it's a free run, and the main regional roads, it's a free run. When you get inside the parks, as I said, some of the low-lying bridges and some of the roads where there might have been a partial wash away. But as you came, there was no place where you couldn't pass. It was just a single lane, reduced to a single lane. So that recovery is going on. In the province as a whole, if you take eThekwini, I mean, let's get a sense of that recovery. I mean, in the day or two after the floods, you might have had 70 to 80% of areas without electricity or water. Now most areas have recovered. In fact, we've got about a 95% water and electricity recovery. Of course, there are some areas like Tongaat which still remain an issue, but to move systematically from a 30% supply to 95% required a lot of work, and I think we'd like to give credit to all those who are responsible for that particular recovery.
But in terms of the businesses, do they have enough electricity and enough water to supply all the tourists that you're trying to attract into the province, especially in the eThekwini region?
Yes, in eThekwini, except for Tongaat, all the areas have water. But the tourism facilities generally have water. They either are in areas that have water or where they might be in areas that are affected. I think they've been able to put in place systems by and large with tanks and pressurized tanks so that the water supply is secure. So I think what any would-be tourist would do is just confirm that with the destination they are going to. But I'm confident that 99% of the areas would have water and electricity supply.
And those areas that are outside of eThekwini, which are tourist destinations such as this one, when can we start seeing work on the roads? Because it's close to 3 months now.
Well, the roads require engineering certification. It requires procurement, despite the fact of it being a disaster and supposed to facilitate a faster procurement. But I think because of dynamics that have been generated around disaster funds, everybody's being careful and want to be sure that they can defend the procurement processes. And I think that effect of that is it takes a little bit longer. But I can live with that as long as we know that the reconstruction is in fact happening. I think let's be realistic. I think if you take an example like Transnet and the harbour entrance, where they were able to restore access within 72 hours. That's a bridge and a road where 1,300 trucks a day go in and out. I've just received news that they now have all 4 lanes operating. If you look at the access to Umlazi, which they restored within 5 days. So the point I'm making is it's an issue of prioritization. The N2 South, for example, had a small detour, which is now no longer there. They're able to have direct access on the N2 right through. The N3 is fine, except you reduce to a single lane on the two parts. The regional roads, the R102 and the M4 remains an issue, but that doesn't prevent access totally, just a short detour.
Thank you so much, MEC.
Thank you for having me.
So, Mfundo, that is the MEC for Tourism in the province, Mr. Ravi Pile, just basically taking us through some of the efforts that government is currently doing to make sure that this province remains the top domestic travel for people wanting to take their holidays. Of course, these incidents that have happened over the last 3 years, or 2 years rather, kind of derailed the process of rebuilding. But as he's saying, they are working on some plans to make sure that the province fully recovers, and also the sector, the tourism sector rather.
All right, Lethiwe, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much for that update. That's our reporter, Lethiwe Mdluli, out in Drakensberg. Now